My name is George Attla, and I've raised sprint dogs all my life. I've ran a couple of Idylrods and never made a big success of that. But in the sprint racing world, I'm known as the best dog racer that ever lived. And I came from a long line of, would say, dog people. In my time, when I started, I was just like any other young guy. I knew everything. My mom and dad didn't know nothing. So it was a very humble start, you know. And it took me a long time to finally realize that my mom and dad, at that far back, over 50 years ago, knew more about dogs than I do today. And it's kind of a regret being the way I was, knowing everything. But it was fun along the way. I've won 10 world championships and 8 North American championships and many, many races across the country and Canada. I've held seminars all over the country, or rather all over the world, including Japan and Europe and just about every place you could think of. And coming from the place I did, when I was a kid, we spoke just Indian in my home. We didn't speak English. And I never had no formal education. It was everything I learned the hard way. But I don't think I could claim to have had a hard life. I think I've had it pretty easy. And dog racing back in my village, the village I came from, the village of Hustia, there's been more sprint racing champions come out of that village than any other town in the world. And the reason for that was we had great dogs back there. And in today's dog mushing world today, I think most of the best husky crosses go back to the village of Huslia. I'm sure we could claim that safely, because when we came from the village of Huslia, the one that first came out of the village actually made a clean sweep of the North American and the Rendezvous. Back in those days, there was no long distance races like the Yukon Quest or the Iditarod. So back then, we were making dog racing. Sprint racing really is some of the hardest races to win. There's been, like in the Iditarod, there's guys that are competitive and up there year after year after year. In sprint racing, when I was in my prime, I never won, like, say, 3 years in a row. There's been a few people that did that, but I was not one of them. That goes to prove how hard it was, because history showed that I am one of the best sprint racers there is, but there's no way I could win that 3 years in a row. I've always got knocked off after 2 years. And really, like I say, the best dogs in the area came out of the Kaikuk River.